Today I would like to discuss something that I'm oddly passionate about, which is anime openings. Big shock! Someone who looks, sounds, and acts like me is into weird Japanese cartoons about big muscle men solving violent conflicts by screaming for 5 episodes, and then proceeding to spend the next 7 discussing the power of friendship. And if I look tired and haggard, that's because I just spent about 8 hours dangling coils of steel over barely educated Neanderthals. And I'm also maybe kinda sorta a little drunk. Anime is something I've been into pretty much my entire life, starting as early as 3 years old when Sailor Moon awokened a lot of really awkward feelings within me. I won't lie, I've kind of had a thing for Sailor Jupiter my entire life. God, I shouldn't have chugged all that. Fuck. Everything about it appealed to me. The greater focus on narrative storytelling, the art, just the way everything looked somehow downplayed yet greatly exaggerated. And it pretty much hit a fever pitch when Pokemon came out. I was absolutely hooked. It got to the point where I would just snub non-Japanese shows in favor of stuff like Escaflowne and Gundam Wing. I was only 7 years old, and I was already weebing at an 8th grade level. But the thing that got me interested more than anything else was the openings to a lot of shows, especially Sailor Moon and Pokemon. As a kid, sometimes the first 90 seconds of a show was my favorite part. But as I grew up and got more acquainted with the cesspool of piss that we know today as the internet, I discovered that the openings that we got and the openings people saw in Japan were not always equal. Now, oftentimes a show would change the opening for a number of reasons. Either the company distributing it didn't want to pay the license from the Japanese production company, or maybe they just thought that the opening to this dumb show about kids playing with spinning tops needed to go way too fucking hard. And a lot of other times, a show would change the opening to better suit the demographic in the West, which makes sense. They do that shit in Japan too. Just watch any Transformers opening. Especially the one to Transformers Animated, which is probably why Japan's birth rate is declining. Nobody wants to have kids that have to contend with Hironobu Kageyama. Like, nobody. Like, they're not gonna beat that guy out. The Japanese openings for shows like Beyblade, Shaman King, or the absolute best anime of all time, fucking Power Stone, all featured pop music from what I can assume are popular singers from the time. But then when brought to the West, someone just decided, nah, we need our show about a totally not German World War I pilot hunting down the legally safe Chaos Emeralds to sound like it came from a mid-90s sitcom. At least that's what it sounds like to me, not sure why. I fucking love it though. Honestly, the show itself, Power Stone, it's nothing special. Not even close to being as good as the games it's based off of. But the opening is a fucking bop. And yeah, most of these did come from shows aimed at children. And most of the most notable dub openings came from the appropriately titled 4Kids. Now, 4Kids have a very storied history among anime fans, starting off as a marketing company hired by Nintendo in the late 80s to becoming the mid-2000s equivalent of Hanna-Barbera, dominating the Saturday morning airwaves with whatever kind of shit they could produce on the cheap. 4Kids produced a lot of English anime dubs, and none more famous than the previously mentioned Pokemon. And I mean, this song fucking rocks. I don't even care about Pokemon that much anymore. But goddamn if this song isn't fucking amazing. I will sometimes just throw it on for shits and giggles. Play it on an endless loop, like for days, for hours, for seconds. I want this shit at my fucking funeral. Like, when I am dead and cold and they are ready to put me in the fucking ground, I want this song just playing full blast. Like not a cover, no, the original fucking song. And in an odd twist, it's actually a lot better than the Japanese version, which just sounds fine. Like, maybe if I was a Japanese kid that was old enough to see that episode that gave everyone seizures, maybe I'd think it was good. But nah, give me that power ballad shit. Somehow Nintendo has never used this in actual games when really, that's all I want. Like, give me the ability to have Terry Bogard dunk Ness off the side of a skyscraper while this blares in the background. And it's not even just that one Pokemon theme that rocks hard as fuck. It's just the one that rocks hard as fuck the most. Advanced Battle and Battle Frontier, they got pretty good openings. And I fucking dare you to get Johto Journey's opening out of your head. Once you hear it, it's not fucking going anywhere. And then, on the other side of the autism spectrum, we have 4Kids' notorious One Piece rap. It is, how the French would say, la fucking dog shit. I know a lot of people like it ironically, but even back in the day, as someone who was super into One Piece, this is when I'd go to the kitchen to make a snack. I don't know, maybe it's the fact that I don't like rap, or maybe it's because I'm just thrown off that someone thought this was a good idea. Like maybe someone at Toei pitched the show to 4Kids by showing clips of Pirates of the Caribbean with NWA playing over it. Who knows? The worst part is that One Piece is bad, but at least it's original. I mean, so is the show. But let's look at the opening to Dinosaur King, which maybe you can hear it over my sandpaper smooth voice, which by the way, yes, dinosaurs are fucking amazing. Go watch my Primal Rage review. This song sounds 100% like another song. I just can't seem to figure out which one. The most painful part is when we have to hear Seto Kaiba rap. Or at least, that sounds like Eric Stewart, trying to bust some fat rhymes. And yes, I did write fat with a PH in the script, because that's just what I fucking do. All I know is that this opening is fucking hot garbage, which, to be honest, most 4Kids openings kind of were, even the ones I like. Yeah, I will ironically play the opening to Tai Chi Chasers, a show that I've never fucking seen in my entire life, because the song just randomly pops into my head, but I'm not going to pretend that most of them were good. Except the Sonic X opening, because I will fucking cut a bitch who talks shit about the Sonic X opening. And that's my neighbor's dog just going right off. Somebody probably had the audacity to exist in its presence. But you'll be shocked to know that 4Kids was never even really the worst offender. Not by a fucking long shot. See, the worst anime dub openings came to us courtesy of Saban Entertainment. Started by Haim Saban in the year 1990, the name Haim Saban might be familiar to you if you grew up in the 80s or 90s. He worked on the music for shows like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Inspector Gadget, and Jace and the Wheeled Warriors, just to name a few. With his own company, he helped produce English adaptations of Japanese shows, as it was a lot cheaper than just making new ones from scratch. The most notable of these being Power Rangers, and Digimon, of course. Power Rangers, while not an anime, tend to have really fucking good openings. I mean, really good. Screaming guitars, played over-top footage of conventionally attractive people turning to the camera and smiling. Digimon, on the other hand, I don't even think I liked this opening growing up. But it's catchy, it stays in your head, it's memorable, it's not good. But to me, the worst opening any anime dub has ever had belongs to Dinosaurs. And no zoom in, because it's spelled with a Z. I don't know why. Just dinosaurs and poor literacy go together like, I don't know, like shit and peanut butter. I honestly can't remember anything about this show, but god damn did I watch it. Probably because it was on right before something else that I actually wanted to see. Sometimes I think it's just a fever dream, and then I look it up, and every single memory comes flooding back to me like a Vietnam veteran hearing Fortunate Son for the first time in 30 years. Nothing in this intro works. The sudden appearance of the lyrics, which there's not a lot of, demands that I not take this show seriously. And I mean, what's not to take serious about a show where a bunch of totally not Japanese kids befriend highly marketable robot dinosaur hybrids? What part of that am I not supposed to take seriously? That sounds like as serious as AIDS. But it's the combination of just the auditory diarrhea is probably the best way I could describe it. I haven't played guitar for very long. I'm not good at playing guitar. But this is just a mess. This is just notes. This is the music that your parents heard when you were a teenager, just blaring like Billy Talent and Alice Cooper, and like all that shit. And when your parents said, turn down that noise, this is what they heard. They heard the theme to dinosaurs. This is the noise that they heard. But I never thought in my entire life that I would ever get tired of somebody saying, wham bam, it's the Dino Jam. But somehow, within 30 seconds, they say it 5 times. The song then tries, and by tries, I mean not at all, to give you a basic synopsis of the show's plot for about 4 seconds before going, why even fucking bother? The little shits will forget this show exists. And they were so fucking right about that. Oh shit, now what was I on about? Right, anime dub openings. The worst opening any anime dub has ever had belongs to Dinosaurs. While I do usually prefer the opening of an anime to get me pumped as all fuck, sometimes you'll just get an opening that's catchy. In this category, I'd have to put Card Captors, and of course, Hamtaro. Now, I was way out of the demographic and age range when Hamtaro aired in the West, with it being aimed mostly at really young girls. But fuck it! I don't feel even the slightest bit of shame admitting that I thoroughly enjoyed watching a dumb slice-of-life anime about fucking hamsters. And yes, I say hamsters. I add a P in there. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. I've been doing it for years. And this opening is probably why I used to love this show. Once you hear it, it just refuses to leave your head. And whether that's good or bad is entirely unknown to me. Like, people that I know are going to see this video, and their thoughts are probably going to be, is he singing the fucking Hamtaro theme in his head right now? To which the answer will always be yes. Yes, I fucking am. But this isn't just a thing that would happen with anime meant for kids. Sometimes anime meant for adults and teens would also do similar things. To me, the best example is the anime adaptation of Street Fighter, which replaces the homoerotic overtones of the Japanese opening with homoerotic undertones and the shouting of the show's name at the very end. Honestly, both openings kind of suck balls, which, considering the vibes that this opening gives me, it's pretty fitting. Shocked that they didn't just slip the scene of Ryu staring at Ken's cock somewhere in there. I think the weirdest example is Dragon Ball Z. Every series in the franchise, save for Super, has at least 2 English dub openings. One for Canada, and one for the US. Yeah, Dragon Ball right up to GT got a different dub for Canada and for the US using the exact same script. And honestly, all of the English openings for Dragon Ball suck. The Canadian one is just bad. Like, it's apparently just the French opening for Z with different lyrics, but it's just bad. Z tried a little harder with the surprisingly epic Rock the Dragon, but then in Canada, we got what I could only describe as auditory herpes, which used the same Rock the Dragon motif the American opening had, but fucked it up entirely. I mean, I'll still reference it ironically and maybe even play it here and there when with friends to go, hey, do you remember this shit? But it's not even remotely close to being actually good. But it wasn't until GT when we got the absolute worst of the worst. See, Dragon Ball GT is a fucking disaster. No matter how you watch it, it is the anime equivalent of your asshole just prolapsing. Every single second of this show is agonizing and painful. It's like watching yourself get a prostate exam by Andre the Giant, wearing Freddy Krueger's glove. The lone exception to this is the opening. Bit by Bit is easily my favorite Dragon Ball opening, but even I'll admit, it really does not fit the series. Like, you have these scenes of white knuckle action and cosmic high adventure, accompanied by a poppy Japanese love song. It just doesn't feel right. Maybe, I don't know, a theremin or something to make it sound all spacey, since, you know, the show is about Goku going into fucking space and shit. Nope. Some absolute brain-dead retarded Einstein at Funimation thought that rap was the best bet. And not just any rap. The same single line, repeated over and over. And hey, I know I knocked rap when I talked about the fucking One Piece opening, but it's not my fault that rap sucks. And that's honestly my biggest issue with a lot of these openings. They don't really fit. Like, for the Japanese versions, they specifically animated footage to pair with certain songs. And when some of that footage is interspliced with footage from the actual episodes, and a totally different song that doesn't really fit the tone of the show it's supposed to be the intro to, you kind of just get this cultural whiplash. Like, you cannot tell me with a straight fucking face that the English opening to Rurouni Kenshin is even remotely what the show is actually like. The show is about a guy who used to commit war crimes and now doesn't want to do war crimes, and the opening sounds like this. What the fuck is probably the only response appropriate for what I just showed you. Yeah, imagine taking a show about a samurai trying to survive in the Meiji era and thinking that the first thing people want to hear is fucking this. I mean, forget about the tragedies the show's protagonist caused. This show is the real fucking war crime. The funniest to me is the opening to Knights of the Zodiac, which some dick executive just thought needed some flock of seagulls to make it sell. I mean, never mind that the song kicks ass, but it puts me more in the mood for driving through Miami snorting coke off the steering wheel mid-turn than it does Greek high fantasy. But to me, the best kind of dub openings are the ones where they just take the original Japanese opening, but either translate it, or better yet, make whole new lyrics for it. The best example of a show that did this is probably Sailor Moon. Almost to the point where the American lyrics are probably more well known than the Japanese ones. But oddly, this was a practice a lot of anime dubs used to do more often back in the day. The earliest is probably what people think of as the very first anime, like ever. And it's a fine song, I guess. It gets the point across, and if I was little Timmy in the 1960s, maybe I'd have annoyed the shit out of my parents with it. I mean, what the fuck else did they have on TV at the time? Like fucking Clutch Cargo? Yeah, a show about a robot kid with a machine gun ass. Seems like it would be a whole lot more fucking interesting. Also, Astro Boy threw hands with fucking Adolf Hitler, which I don't think Clutch Cargo ever fucking did. Pussy. The last type of dub opening I want to talk about is easily the worst, besides ones that use rap music. Spider Riders notwithstanding, which I know like a lot of people say it's not actually Drake doing the opening for Spider Riders. On one hand, it sounds like him. On the other hand, it's good. So that completely rules Drake out entirely. But the worst kind of anime English dub opening has to be what I call the synopsis opening. Yeah, when a show uses that first little chunk to tell you what it's about, shows like Battle of the Planets or Voltron, though I feel Voltron might be cheating since it's like multiple shows stitched together. But these kind of openings just give you a basic rundown of the plot, which you're going to find out by watching the fucking show, and it always felt kind of lazy to me. Like, you can't bitch and complain that your localized version of this hot Japanese property failed in America when you pull shit like this. Especially when you're fucking Saban. Like, if you're the company behind the goddamn X-Men theme and fucking Power Rangers, the only way to go is to go fucking up. Mind you, with their dub of Tekka Man Blade, which they called Techno Man, for some reason, they certainly did fuck up. A lot. This show had literally everything going for it. It was a space opera about a guy with amnesia who has to fight alien forces with a superpowered suit of armor. It was exactly the kind of shit kids would have eaten up back in the 1990s. But I feel like not having something to get people hyped for the show prior to it actually starting kind of cut the balls off of this show. But sadly, the English dub opening is kind of dead, like print media or Lizzo's career. You better fucking believe I jumped on that cow while it was still relevant. A lot of anime dubs these days, they just use the Japanese openings, even ones for kids, which is fine. I feel like we're now at a point where anime dubs are widely considered good or alright or just kind of okay. The old argument of American actors can't match the Japanese ones is kind of dead. The notion that dubs are automatically bad is held by a very small minority. Minority? Did I just add a U to minority? I mean, okay. Dubs, they haven't been bad for nearly 20 years, or at least however many it's been since ghost stories became a thing.
You're a fag and he should join the football team.
It has aged like fine meat.